Welcome to the Ready Up Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host this evening, Carl, and you're joining us for our weekly one-on-one between Paris and I. Paris, how's it going?
I'm doing all right, Carlito. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. So last week we talked about like should Microsoft or Sony kind of fear the Nintendo Switch, and I think we got great conversation out of it. But overall, how did you think it went?
I think it went okay. I think we could do a few things better to get the audience involved. I think we've got some work to do as broadcasters ourselves. So if you've got any feedback for us, you should tune in down there in the comments, and we'd appreciate having you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the views. Appreciate the likes. And like Paris said, we're very new to this. But video games is definitely like a hobby between the both of us, and I think we have good conversations when it comes down to that. So we'll hop right in. So this week we're going to talk about this whole like microtransactions, kind of like spin to win loot crate product that's really taken over a lot of games. We can think of, I can name instantly a couple come to mind, right? We've got Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege just included something like this. Let's see here, like Halo, Gears. These are all games that and I think even League has it now, right, Paris?
I think League's had it sort of for a while. Well, I guess not completely, but yeah, they've added something similar. I think it's the hex crates where
Yeah,
you
exactly.
sort of roll the dice and see what you get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of these games kind of like take on this influence of hey, if you play long enough, you get a chance to spin every now and then there's of course like basically like, hey, give us actual cash money to spin even more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all random, and we're seeing it in a lot of major titles. And what sparked this conversation was the fact that they had announced that the new Shadow of War was going to integrate something very similar. And that set a lot of people off, especially since it's a single-player type game. So there's already a couple of concerning things. What are these things going to look like? Am I going to have to pay real money? Are these going to be in-game currency? Are they going to affect the way that I play? Are they purely cosmetic? Is it play to win? Like, am I going to have to grind if I don't buy this? So I understand everybody's worries. But Paris, kind of like the question I wanted to present to you was, I've got a couple, and we'll kind of start with this one. Is this the new type of quote-unquote DLC season pass online code? To me, I keep thinking that we're just seeing iterations of something very similar. The term DLC to me does not mean the same thing that it meant on the 360 and PlayStation 3 era. I think DLC quite literally meant downloadable content, but now DLC is basically all of that combined. And then we kind of saw the online passes, right, where you had to have a code to play online. And I think we're just kind of seeing like little integrations of kind of like the same system, and they'll get away with it for a little bit, but then like community outcry will kind of like just create the next thing.
I think you hit the nail on the head with it right there. They'll get away with it for a little bit, and then community outcry will sort of change the conversation. Honestly, I think what we're seeing is, so 5-10 years ago, we didn't have DLC. We had expansion packs.
Exactly. And expansion packs too. That's a great one.
Yeah, but because of the way things have changed, and it even extends to the game that I have, downloaded on my PC. It's sort of a living game. Whereas in the past, once you release a title, you release it on a disc or a cassette or a cartridge. And you can't change, the code doesn't change. Nowadays, we have it where you get an update every other week to change the parameters of your game. So what I think we're seeing right now, and then I know I rambled a bit, but what I'm saying is now they can change things on the fly, which is why you have DLC and weird add-ons like this. But I think what we're seeing is sort of the industry and the market trying to grapple with what it means to have a product that is not written in stone from day one, from release. And I think we're going to have a bit of a back and forth for a while until the bigger companies understand what they can't do, and what they're not going to be able to keep doing are these microtransactions, and what they can do. Because guys like you and me, we've been playing games for a long time, and I don't know about you, but there are certain things I will not support in the marketplace when it comes to price gouging and trying to get microtransactions and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
So honestly, I think it's just a state of transition. A lot has changed in gaming in a very short period of time, and we're trying to figure out, both the companies and us, what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about how a lot has changed in a short period of time. A lot has changed since the introduction of the Xbox One, PS4, and I'm gonna I'm gonna include like the Wii U into that, since the Switch is fairly new. But a lot has changed even since the announcement of this next generation, right? We're really seeing a different side of every company, you know. We've got Nintendo, who is usually a conservative company, now kind of like licensing out the Mario franchise to coincide with the Rabbids, you know. We've got Sony, who is, you can see that they're kind of like tweaking and messing with more things, and kind of like what I mean by that is like their online infrastructure, you know, they're kind of like constantly changing that, so on and so forth. And really what you see like Microsoft doing is they're really trying to do like this is for the gamer, right? So, and what I mean by that is they kind of like do a lot of things that like, this really is only going to benefit nobody else but the gamer. And they're kind of like, you know, like being able to go online and customize your own Xbox One controller, right? Like, not necessarily something that, yeah, they'll probably make some profit off of, but you don't really see anybody else doing that. So you're right. A lot has changed, and a lot has changed literally within the past decade.
Yeah.
Now, kind of another topic that I want to bring up is, I think we all kind of fall into this, right? And I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do these. And I'm going to kind of give you examples of both. So some of the things that I think, some of the ways I think is it's okay, or it's quote unquote acceptable, right? I'm going to use two games, for example. League of Legends with skins, right? League of Legends is an entirely free video game. If you want to buy skins for your favorite character, if you want to buy skins for, you know, even for the site wards and so on and so forth, those are available to you. But you do not have to buy them. They don't affect you in any way, shape, or form in terms of your player's skill. It's purely cosmetic, and it's online. So at least if I own a skin, you're going to be able to see it. And kind of, you know, I'll be able to show off like what my favorite designs are, so on and so forth. Yeah. Now, I think another game that did it quite well, and, you know, tooting my own horn here, I'll go out on a limb and just go ahead and say that, was Halo. Yeah, it was Halo 5. But here's why. Hold on, I'm gonna give you some. I'm gonna let me get there. So right. So I think Halo 5 did it really great because when Halo 5 was released, they announced that all downloadable content was free, so that like they weren't splitting the player base. And I think that's the key word right there, not splitting the player base, by offering a season pass with new maps, so on and so forth. Everybody got new maps. Everybody got, you know, all the updates and all the extra game modes, so on and so forth, right? It was all free. Everything that Halo 5 brought to multiplayer was free for everybody. And that has done a lot of goodwill with them. However, on the backside of things, you are able to buy, you know, quote unquote, like loot crates. You know, you basically buy this crate and you get like 5 cards. You know, you flip the card over and it's like, okay, you got this armor, you got this weapon skin, so on and so forth. But none of these things are necessary to play Halo 5's online multiplayer. And once again, I think the kind of like the theme here that I'm going on is they are purely cosmetic. Right. They don't affect the way the game plays at all. To an extent, the new Halo 5 game mode with the where you are able to like select vehicles and stuff like that, you can kind of buy to, you know, the better vehicles and weapons and so forth. But even then, when it comes to that game mode, gosh, this is going to irritate me. I think Warzone is the name of the game mode. But even then, though, I haven't paid a dime, and people have come out of their base with tanks, and I'm just sitting here with a rocket launcher, and I'm like, that's cute, you know, like you had that for 30 seconds. And now then there's kind of like Overwatch, I think, is another good example. You paid Overwatch. You've played Overwatch, right, Paris? Or no?
I haven't.
No, okay.
Yet, no.
So Overwatch is something very similar. You know, like every time you level up, you get a crate that you can open up to get skins, voiceovers, you know, poses, spray paints. However, if you want to spend the extra money for them, that's always an option. And I don't think these things are bad, but I know that they kind of do offer some hate towards a certain group of people. But I think when it comes to like multiplayer games that do it correctly, I'm not really going to stir too much of a fuss about it. And I can't talk shit about League of Legends. I can't tell you how much money I dropped in League of Legends for skins.
I spent some money in League of Legends, and I will still talk shit about them any day, but not because of the skins. And I think my issue, so for League of Legends, and even for your Halo and your Overwatches, I think there's a key difference between putting certain things in a multiplayer game versus a single player game. For example,
so that's a theme I want to talk about too, was multiplayer versus single player.
yeah, but it makes it, the philosophy, the concept makes sense for multiplayer, because sometimes you can pay $5 to get an experience bonus so that you can level up a profile faster, so you can reach level 30 in League of Legends. Like that makes sense. And really, it's something that you're going to get to eventually anyway, right?
Level really doesn't mean anything in League of Legends.
Exactly. So paying for that experience bonus doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't hurt your competition because you paid to win, because it's not. If
so much anything, that might disable you a little bit.
Yeah, if you wind up playing against people that you're not playing against.
Right.
But
exactly.
But what I'm getting at is, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense for a multiplayer philosophy. But for a single player game, I mean, in the article that you linked, Monolith made it a point to say that no content is gated, right? As soon as someone is unable to connect to the internet, then you have gated that content. You have gated the ability to take advantage of a part of the game. And I see this with other single player games like Hitman, for example. The last time I logged into the latest Hitman release, if you're not online, you cannot use or play with the things that you've unlocked over the course of that game. And you can't really take advantage of all the features if you're not online. So developers have moved towards this place where they're making online a key component of single player games. Now, I grew up somewhere where I didn't always have internet access because, power might go out, so handhelds were great for us, or just, could not use the internet. Not everybody can use the internet. So by making something dependent on that internet accessibility, especially with a single player game, you are gating content behind a barrier. Yes. And what happens when your servers and your service goes down? That game is by default no longer relevant.
SimCity is the best example of that. That was an online-only game, and guess what? The servers did not work for shit when that game came out, and now guess what? Who's playing that game?
Nobody. And it was
I'm looking around. I don't see you.
It was meant for single-player play. That's what I don't understand, why these companies are making that.
What I don't understand is, like with Shadow of War, let's assume that Shadow of Mordor is such a great game, and I'm like, wow, I really can see like how this can become a franchise that maybe we've been asking for. Everybody's talking about we want new IPs, We're tired of Call of Duties, we're tired of all this other generic shit that we get. We get Madden every year, we get Call of Duty every year, we get Assassin's Creed every year, we get Far Cry, we get Battlefield every other year, and so we kind of got this new IP that is great, and in my opinion, it was a fantastic game. And now, so my biggest question is, let's just assume these are only cosmetics, right? What do I care? If I'm buying, and I'm kind of going to jump back to my point with League, was at least if I'm buying a skin, everybody I'm playing with is going to be able to see it. If I'm buying a skin on Shadow of War, who's going to see it except me, myself, and I, and maybe... and maybe somebody who's walking by my TV screen at the time. So that really makes me believe that it is going to be more than just cosmetics. Because to me, it just being cosmetics in a single-player game doesn't make sense.
And to play semi-devil's advocate on that, at least in a single-player outing, it's not a situation where play to win means that other players are left in the dust because you're not competing against anybody.
Sure.
But at the same time, the fact that you have content, and one of the things from that article mentioned that higher level chests can be bought with things that you buy online.
Yep.
The fact that content is gated in this online barrier, and you have to have real cash after the primary point of purchase, that's what bothers me.
Yeah. And I like your point about even having to be online for this stuff is creating a gate to get in, right? That was the biggest issue when the Xbox One was announced, that you had to always be online. and everybody really took a hard stop and was like, no, that's not okay. And you saw them get their shit together literally almost overnight. They completely changed what they said on the stage of E3 literally within months. And they had to, or else the Xbox One wouldn't have sold. So I think my question for you, Paris, is do you see this evolving? Do you see this changing anytime soon, or do you think this is here to stay for a while?
I think it's here to stay for a while. I think at least for another, I'm just going to throw a number out there. People suck at making predictions, so don't take this to the bank. I think for another 10 to 15 years, we're going to see companies grapple with the logistics of releasing a living product. And by living product, again, I mean able to receive updates after the point of release. Mm-hmm. We're going to see grapple with trying to create a revenue off of that living product, because the fact is making games is very expensive, and the more sophisticated they become, the more expensive they get to make.
Right. So real quick, let me pause you right there. So I think that's something else we should maybe just dwell on for a second here was, like skins really help a multiplayer-based game stay alive for a lot longer. They help, buying those skins help keep the light on. And that's on top of the $60 price tag that usually comes along with it, or some kind of like entry level price tag, right?
Yeah.
Is it such a harsh thing to think that, like, man, yeah, I am paying $60 for Shadow of War. Maybe I am okay with throwing them a couple of bucks here and there every now and then, because I'm okay with doing it with Overwatch. So is it such a bad idea that they even maybe just kind of like give me as the player an option? It might give the game longer life, and if it kind of helps, maybe I'm just thinking like of longevity, right, for a single player game. How do we bring longevity into a single player game? And maybe this isn't the answer, but is it worth trying?
I think that you hit a really good point right there, whether or not this is the answer. And I don't think it is. When I think of single player games that people go back to and they play over and over again, they have been games that were released before before the age of constant DLC, before online updates. They were games like
what I bought on this disc was all that I had.
And that was all that you needed, because when the game was designed properly, it offered you enough replayability to go back and play over and over again. And that's where you got your time on. And then when they released DLC after that, that was fine. And that's how you supported the studio after. I don't think microtransactions are not, especially not in the way Shadow of War is doing it. I don't think those are the answer, because they're not adding anything substantive to the game. They're not adding content. Not content in terms of hours.
Right.
They're adding some artificial, and even the way, you sort of have to build up this currency so you can open a box so you might get the item you were looking for. Mm-hmm. That's artificial padding in the game. And one of the games I can think of that frustrates me to no end, because again, it's a way to extend hours without actually extending content. Monster Hunter does this. When you have So for those that don't know, when you kill a monster in Monster Hunter, you get to carve it up, right? You get to take parts to make your equipment. And there are a few items that are super rare that you have to kill like 30 of a monster to get just one of this item. And that's artificial padding. That's not good game design, because rather than add content, you've
added grinding.
Exactly. You've made something rare in a way that it's arbitrary. There's nothing the player can do to boost those chances. Yeah. There's no skill involved. There's no mechanics involved in the game where the player was taught to get that in a meaningful way.
Right.
So, sorry, I'm rambling, but it's artificial padding, and it's the same with chess.
Yeah, and I think like that's what turned me away from like MMOs for I mean, like it still even turns me away to today. Is I hate grinding. That is the worst thing in a game. I'm not going to sit here for 10 hours killing the same guy over and over again to get a rare item. You know what I mean? I have no interest in doing that in any way, shape, or form. All right, Paris, last topic before we head out.
Okay.
Do you think we'll ever see a game, and I'm just using Black Ops 2, for example, but do you ever think we'll see something like Black Ops 2, a heavy multiplayer-based game that comes with basically challenges to get a weapons skin, right? So if you wanted the Red Tiger, you had to get 30 headshots with this particular gun. If you got all gold skins with every assault rifle, you got diamond skins for all assault rifles, showing that I completed every challenge for every single gun in the assault rifle class. And to me, what these microtransactions are doing is taking away that part of a game and replacing it with this. With Black Ops, when I got diamond skins for my assault rifles, that was saying something. That was saying I put a lot of work and time into this. I got the 30 headshots, I got the 30 melee kills, so on and
when
so forth.
people saw that, they were like, "Holy shit, this guy's a badass!" Yeah.
Right. Do you ever think we'll see anything like that again?
I do, but I think you'll see them a lot more from indie developers who don't rely on microtransactions because, and if a large company rep is watching this and they take offense, I mean the offense, you're not going to see it from a company whose biggest loyalty is to shareholders, because they're going to rely on microtransactions and milking the consumer at every turn. Whereas a indie game developer, a lot of those guys, there's a lot of indie game crap, but a lot of the really good ones seem to have a love of the game and a love of what makes things fun, because they don't have that jaded sort of milking mentality of these huge, companies. So I don't think you'll see it very often in AAA production games. Mm-hmm. What about you? Do you think?
So I think we're pretty much on the same page here. Do I think we'll ever see it? Yes, eventually, right? Like I find it hard to believe that we won't ever not, see it. I agree with you. I think they are, at least in the very beginning, going to be more likely to come from, indie games, necessarily, basically games that aren't attached to the big AAA studios or publishers. However, I do believe that, there might be one day where there is a big company that kind of, takes a stand and says, nah, we're not doing this anymore. Let's change the playing field a little bit. And whether that works or not will yet to be seen. But I do like to imagine that there is a company out there with big enough balls to join our side,
You know what? I hope so, because I think of CD Projekt Red, and they did something. I think it was either with Witcher 2 or Witcher 3 that garnered them a lot of goodwill with players. It was basically some form of free DLC and such. But that goodwill translated into huge takeaway for their bottom line. Yep. So, and it's stuff like that makes companies successful. They just don't see it in terms of immediate dollars. They don't do it. Right. So again, EA will never do this because screw you, EA. You're a terrible company.
Yeah. All right, Paris. Thanks for joining me this week. I appreciate it. Hey, if you like this video, please comment, like, subscribe, click on that bell icon. You're always welcome to reach out to me and to Paris or I in the comments below. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about in the future, all you gotta do is let us know. Paris, until next week, I bid you adieu.
Been good.